2 weeks ago, Horatio's garden kindly asked me to make a short film about how I take pictures and if I could make that relevant to people with a spinal cord injury. Being a photographer for advertising clients takes weeks of preparation, lots of skilled people and a whole load of kit, from robotic lights on arms to microscopic lenses to a crew maybe of 8 to 12 people. So I thought, if I'm going to make this film, maybe I should transfer the skills that I've learned in my London studio back to my home. No kit, no crew, just me and an iPhone. It's been great fun. The 3 areas I'd like to look at are, first of all, the kit you can use to help make photography possible with a spinal cord injury. The kit for this solo phone camera challenge is something I've only just started to research. I'm a C5-6 complete, and your requirements could be completely different. Secondly, lighting. The way you use the light available to you will completely change a photograph. And thirdly, composition. How the shapes appear in the photograph and where the eye of the viewer is drawn. I've tried experimenting with a selfie stick, but that doesn't really work. This bendy tripod, I bend around my hand, it just squashes on. It really helps me manoeuvre my hand to see what I want to see. It works quite well. Another thing I've been trying out is the 10-second timer on the phone. It gives me a moment to choose my frame and then it fires. If you find you've put the camera somewhere you can't reach it, I've found a Bluetooth button works really well. You can set up the camera, wait, push the button, and hopefully catch that moment you've been waiting for. If you have limited mobility in your hands, you could use a lap tray and then put your phone on a tripod. Then you can move yourself around to wherever you want to shoot your picture and you're quite stable. Or you could put the subject on the tray and then shoot overhead, choose your shot and fire yourself. It's really important with light you decide what type of light you would like to use. You can wait for the right light, or you can move your shot to the light you want. The type of light is very key too. Reflected or direct sunlight. The direction is another consideration, side, top or backlit. Here's an example of a soft north light I shot inside, just under a window. Notice how gentle the light is. There is still quite strong texture in the petals, but the shadows are much reduced. Direct sunlight can be more or less black in its shadows. Dawn or dusk are a great time to shoot in the garden. Shadows will be far less harsh and the colours will start to jump. This is the same dried flower, just shot outside at dusk with the warm evening light. These grasses look quite interesting, but the light's really harsh on them at the moment. I think I'll come back this evening and shoot them when the light is low and shining from behind. It's starting to work now, but I think as a still it works better cropped as an upright. We can see the flow up and down within the frame. If you only have light and composition to tell your story, you have to direct the viewer's eye. Where do you as the viewer look in this image? First, second and then third. The in-focus flower, the secondary flower, and then the soft green background? I hope so. That was my subconscious plan. I've now realised there's a thought process I go through each time I take a picture. When you look at the iris I shot in the garden, the iris is the centre of the shot and the background's very distracting. So that's why I decided to put in a piece of white card behind the flower. It worked, but I wasn't that wild about it. I then had a look at shooting from overhead just to look at the textures and the flow of the petals. This shot slightly out of focus as I was using the timer, but the idea was right. I really quite like the textures and the flow and shapes that are starting to happen here, but I'm a bit confused by what I'm looking at. So I then went to look at this flower from side on, and I loved seeing the pollen that the bees had left as they'd crawled into the flower. But I wasn't quite sure where I was looking first. Those long white hairs are quite interesting. So this final image, I think, is my favourite, just because my eye is drawn right to those white hairs. And then you go to the purple and the curve, and then the frame is held by the negative white space. Here's another example of me trying to find a picture. I'd noticed these hatching beech leaves. I felt in this shot the leaves have a delicate shape, but the background's quite distracting. This has more to do with the chrysalis-like emergence of the leaf, but it's a bit ugly. There's something starting to happen here. The light and the composition feel a bit more elegant. This is my last example. I found these plump poppy heads just waiting to burst, and then I had to wait for the evening light. To get my composition, I had to move in quite a way. This meant I had to reach forward, run out of hands, and had to use my nose to fire the camera. This is a first for me. I'm sure there is a better way to do this. I then waited some more for the sun to drop further, nose at the ready. I just couldn't believe how the late, low evening light brought out the bristles. I do hope my experimenting will encourage you to try things out for yourself. If you do give it a go, please feel free to send me anything you like at Richard Foster Studio on Instagram. Have fun, and I look forward to seeing what you've been up to.